Now, making a call, I mean, I'm picturing picking up a cell phone and making a call. Is that what we're talking about here, Jim, or are we talking about something else?
It is, but it's also a metaphor for everything else.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll tell you the reason that I said making the call is because I keep having this situation happen where there was where people will want to connect with someone that you know. Maybe they want to present something to the office manager, for instance, where you work at or something, and they say, "Here's my number. Have them give me a call." Well, here's the thing. Number one, you're asking me to do something, and then you're asking somebody else to do something, right? To do something for you. You're the one that wants it, and so to me, you're kind of asking a lot. Number one, like, okay, that's the more things you ask, the more things you expect from other people, the less I think you're going to get. Here's the other thing too: is you're putting all the power into other people's hands. So if you're waiting on this office manager to call you, um, you're going to be waiting around. Why not just call that office manager yourself? Why not find out what their name is and you call them? And so, I got totally off base track there. I think I confused you there for a moment.
No, that's okay.
um, or people will say, I really want to, help. I noticed your friend is having this issue here. Have them give me a call. No, don't have them give you a call. You call them. If I know Chris knows John Maxwell, for instance, and I go, hey, Chris, have John give me a call, will you?
Yeah, sure, that's gonna happen.
So number one, I got to get Chris to talk to John, and then John to actually call me. So we got a couple of steps of where a no could happen. But if, he might be more inclined to go, hey, Chris, can I get John's email address? He might give me that, right? So, but then I contact him. So don't. But it's the same thing with everything else. Don't just sit around waiting for the job to come to you. You got to go get the job. Go after it. Be a hunter. That's what you got to do.
Yeah, and I think part of it boils down to, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think part of it boils down to sometimes they're afraid of rejection, so they're afraid of making the call. But in another, or I should say, however, in another aspect, they're afraid they're going to bother somebody, or they're afraid they're going to be a nuisance, or they're afraid to ask for things. And do you find, I guess let me ask you that question, do you find that, the clients you work with, do either of those two themes, the afraid of rejection or the fear, being afraid of rejection or the fear of being a nuisance, do either of those two play into why people don't make the call?
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, I suffer from the same thing. I sometimes don't want to call people because I'm afraid of rejection, or I don't want to be a nuisance also. But the thing is it um, uh, is it more of a nuisance to actually make the call to somebody or to ask them to call you, right?
Yeah,
you know, um, for something that they don't necessarily even want or don't know that they want.
Yeah, well, and the funny part is with it's more of a nuisance, but then it alleviates that fear of rejection, because if you're talking with somebody like you mentioned the John Maxwell comment, it's like if you ask me to have John call you, then if John says no, you're not getting rejected by John, I'm getting rejected by John, and
Right.
then
It's true.
I'm coming back and I'm not rejecting you, and you don't feel rejected because you're not getting that immediate no. It's kind of this roundabout, this roundabout way of going about things, and for whatever reason it feels softer to people. I mean, does that all make sense?
Actually, I love that too. That I hadn't even thought about that aspect. But yeah, you're not getting rejected. You're just getting a reporting of the facts then, right? And John said no, he's not going to call you.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of times, what will happen is in this triangle we're talking about, and this is what our brain, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is, I think, what our brain expects. You ask me to have John call you. John says no. I'm not going to be nasty. I'm going to say, John probably won't be nasty. He'll say, well, if I can, I will. Then it's something where my translation back to you is, he'll try and he'll do his best, so you don't feel that immediate rejection. And by the time he doesn't call, then you don't, then you're not really feeling that rejection, because you've kind of forgotten about it, or it's been put in the back of your mind, and it's been softened. Does that make sense, or am I off base on that?
Oh, it does absolutely. And the thing is we all not well, I shouldn't say we all, but a lot of us we get that. that fear of failure really is what it comes down to. We feel like we failed. And like I was just trying to explain to a comic the other day because he was talking about he's going to do his first open mic and he's afraid he's going to bomb. And I said, and he was looking for advice. I said, you probably will bomb. I mean, that's just the, I said, embrace it. That's the first 10 times you'll probably bomb. I mean, it's very few people that really are really, really funny their first few times on stage. It happens every once in a while, but it's a learning process. And the thing is, you didn't learn to walk just by walking. You had to fall down a bunch of times. You don't remember that, but you did. And we want to be good at everything without having to fail. But I think that's how you get good at things. And believe me, I still struggle with this too. You get good at things by failing them.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's kind of funny you bring that up, but I remember the first event I put on, ended up having I think 3 ticket sales, lost my shirt, and it was a complete disaster. And everybody said, "Well, wouldn't you have rather had it be a success?" And I went, "No, I learned 100 things, that I've been able to implement since then to make every event more successful than that one. Financially, sure, I would have loved it to have been successful. However, it taught me so much about things not to do, about things to worry about, not to worry about. And in the end, I didn't die. In the end,
Nice.
nothing from that one event was so tragic that affected the rest of my life. And I moved on. And I think that's the biggest thing, and then I'm going to ask you what you want to leave the folks with. But from my perspective, thinking about this topic and talking about this topic, one of the things is you have to realize that your brain is wired to be in this life and death struggle all the time, and a lot of things that we look at, your brain translates into life and death, and you have to understand that if it's not life and death, then it's not life and death. And
Exactly.
it's not going to kill you. It might hurt you. It might, take a toll on you mentally. It might take a toll on you physically, and it might do something negative to you, but that's okay. You can come and you can achieve more because of it. Is that all? I mean, does that make sense, or did I go completely off
It is.
base on that,
And
Jim?
no, no, not at all. And I got to tell you, if you read anything about famous people, you get all these quotes from famous people that talk about failing, about persevering, about all this. They wouldn't write about it if it didn't happen. Most great people have failed dozens of times, and the only difference is they just kept getting up. And the thing I think that can really help a person to reframe, if you're wondering, well, how do I reframe the situation? Use this phrase: something happens and you go, isn't it great that my car broke down, right? Because then I have the opportunity to take the bus and I got to see things I haven't seen before or whatever. And it may seem silly and it's tough at first, believe me. And it doesn't, grandma dies, it's going to be tough to reframe that in a positive way. But once you get in the habit of it, it becomes much easier. And the thing is you just don't get anywhere by dwelling on your failures. It won't help at all. Learn from them, yes, but it won't help to. You might as well reframe it and look at it in a positive
Yeah, exactly. And I think that is an epic place to end today's episode on. Jim, you've been an epic guest. Before we roll on out of here, I'm going to tell people how to get in contact with you. I just threw Jim's website up on the screen, and considering it's nice and long, I'm not going to read it because you're watching this. Actually, what the heck? In case you're listening to this, in case you downloaded this and are audio podcasting or something, it's Jim Kellner, hypnotist. That's JimKellnerHypnotist.com. Jim Keller, hypnotist.com, or text the word hypnosis to 33733, and you'll get signed up to Jim's newsletter and get a free hypnosis download called Unlimited Happiness. Jim, epic stuff you're doing, not only in the world of hypnosis, but in comedy and everything else you're doing. You're an epic guy. Before I kind of roll on out of here and say goodbye to our viewers for today, is there anything you want to leave our viewers with before we roll on out of here?
Thank everybody for watching, and I just want you to know you really are. Um, I know it's hard to believe, but I think you really are mostly in control of where you are in your life. So if you're not happy where you are in your life, take responsibility for it, and start taking some steps to change it.
Epic advice from an epic guy. You got to get in touch with this guy. You got to take him up on his free offer. You got to reach out to him and see what he can do to help you. And folks, once again, until we meet again, make it an epic day.
To watch the rest of this epic episode now, click on the link below the video. Do it now, you'll be glad you did. Are you still here? What are you waiting for? Watch the rest of this epic episode now by clicking on the link below the video.